Hi, this is Bill Scheid from Applied Finance Research and the Systems Lab. And today I have the great honor and pleasure of being here with my trading and investing teacher and mentor, Dr. Ken Long from Tortoise Capital Management. And he's also the founder of the Owl Group. Ken, thank you very much for taking the time to be here today.
My absolute pleasure to be here, Bill.
So today I would like to ask you three questions. So the first question is, what is a trading and investing system? You know, we hear a lot about that in the trading world. And if you could give us a 60-second definition in terms that a general, perhaps new person to trading and investing, something that in common language that someone could understand, what is a trading system? And then tell us a little bit about systems thinking. And then the third question is, how do we apply systems thinking to the idea of a meta system? And that would be, creating a system of systems. So first question, 60 seconds, what is a trading or investing system in simple language?
Sure. Have we got our screen shared?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's our contact information. That's the system of getting a hold of us, by the way. And that's the new book that we just published last month. It includes a chapter on systems thinking in general, because I think it's an important foundational cognitive skill for all traders to have. If you want a persistent edge in a dynamic market, you better be a systems thinker. Systems thinking was one of the 10 critical skills needed for the job market for 2025, according to the World Economic Forum. So there's a long-term persistent advantage that you have as a trader if you can think using systems thinking. And one of the things that you think about when you're a systems thinker is trading systems. So with that in mind, uh, the simplest definition, common definition of a system is a group of components organized to seek a goal in an environment. So you've got some pieces and parts that are working together, and they are synchronized in such a way that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and that it is purposeful activity. And so a nice way to look at that is this diagram that comes from Thomas Athey's systematic systems thinking, where you simply take a look at your system as an input, process, and output, self-contained, that's an actor inside a larger environment. You can influence the environment, it can influence you, but you can't control it. So there's a certain dynamic quality in there. Well, if I now put a trading lens on, then a trading system is nothing more than something that's going to study that environment and study our own capabilities and design a process that should allow us to take information, process it, analyze it, and then the output takes the form of an actionable trade. And that trade goes out to compete with other trades in an environment, and then we get the results. And then that generates a feedback loop that allows us to assess how good was our process, but really also how good was our input? What do we need to adjust in order to stay well in tune with that environment? So a trading system does exactly that. A good one allows you to use those feedback loops to learn from your activity and improve towards progress as a result of a learning subsystem. So that's what I would say about a trading system. Now, we could get very detailed and spend about 20 hours talking about each and every component of a trading system. When you and I were teaching at the Tharp Institute, we had a 20-hour workshop that went into great detail for what we identified as 10 specific parts of a trading system that goes beyond the scope of this presentation, but it included all of the things that I just sort of mentioned, like what markets am I trading? What is my setup criteria? What are the filters? What is the entry criteria? How do I figure out position size? What time frame should I be operating on? How long should I stay? What kind of an exit strategy do I need to have? What is my re-entry strategy? What is my system for adding positions, for reducing positions? Do I stop and reverse? Does success in one trade give me a new setup? Does a failure in a trade give me a new setup? And then how do I have a system to overall assess all of those features? How do I have a system for the psychological elements of the trader involved in the trade? And then how do I consider the broader market as a system to determine if this trading strategy is appropriate for that kind of a market? So that's about a 20 or 30 hour detailed systems development course. Um, and and that is work that should not be shortchanged. But in a nutshell, at the very top level, the 30,000-foot overflight, that's how we can think of this in a useful way. A group of components organized to seek a goal in an environment. And then when you drop that into trading, it's how do I develop a reliable, robust learning system that allows me to find and exploit opportunities in the market.
Yeah,
So
that's a
that's
fantastic definition. Thank
yeah.
you. So then the second question would be, what is systems thinking? And then again, we would want to drop that into the context of the market environment.
Yeah. So Barry Richmond is a legendary foundational thinker in the world of systems thinking. He developed some software that really made it accessible to the wide world of many different disciplines, how to model systems, including decision-making systems, production systems, environments, human systems. And he describes systems thinking really as a set of cognitive processes, qualities, attributes, and skills that allowed us to do this. The art and science of making reliable inferences about behavior by developing an increasingly deep understanding of underlying structure. So systems thinking is really taking a look at complexity, dynamic complexity, and rendering it into a process model, a systems map that allows us to study how the pieces and parts fit together, how they interact, what are the dimensions or the extremes of behavior. Then by studying that structure in motion over time, you begin to understand how that operates 24/7 in an ecosystem. And that understanding that structure, how the anatomy fits together, allows us to anticipate the behaviors of that system. And he would note that systems thinking is a particular way of seeing the world, and it's usually associated with dynamics and structures. So structures give you order, strength, and consistency, like a building. But at the same time, we're operating in a dynamic world and it is subject to stresses and forces. So it's not just structures, it's not just processes, it is the intersection, the union of both structures and processes. And systems thinking is an organized way to look at that dynamically. And so the data that systems thinkers use is different, and the way we think about it is different than folks who look at the world as a snapshot, a static picture that you get it right one time and you understand it forever. No, systems thinking is really taking a look at the dynamics, the objects in motion over time. So that's what we mean by systems thinking. For a trader, what that means is recognizing that the trade goes through life cycles, that there's a pre-trade, there's a during the trade, there's after the trade. There's planning, preparing, executing, assessing, that thing is dynamic. And some of the tasks that we're doing are different in each one of those phases, but you have to understand them all together as an organic, unified whole to really appreciate the entirety of the trade and of the trading system. So that's what we mean by trading systems thinking, I should say.
And I really love the part of the definition here that says it's the art and the science. You know, the connection that I make to trading in that is the different types of trading systems that we have. So we have the discretionary systems, or discretionary rules-based systems, which tend to lean more towards the art side of things. And then we have the mechanical systems, which tend to lean more towards the science or the structured part of things, but I love the fact that systems thinking is about structure and process, and we can apply it to all different types of trading systems, regardless of it, whether it's discretionary, rules-based, or mechanical.
Yeah, I mean, there are traders who emphasize only the art or only the science, but the dynamic market combines both of those. And so if you're only using one lens, you're only getting an approximation, and there's always something more that your method doesn't look at. So you have to have both art and science. And then what Mintzberg would call the craft of trading, the craft of systems thinking, is learning how to usefully blend art and when should I use art? When should I use science? How do I mix those in a way that's better than using just one or the other? You
Yep.
know, that is that's the unifying element of professional craftsmanship that is itself one of the elements of systems thinking.
And that's one of the things I've always admired about you is the craftsmanship, the level of mastery you bring to knowing when to apply the science, knowing when to apply the art. And of course, as we both know from being around Dr. Van Tharp, in his studies, he found that discretionary rules-based traders were the ones who ended up ultimately making the most money. And I've always appreciated your ability to walk in both of those worlds, the mechanical
Yeah.
world, the science world, and the art slash craft world. You're,
Yeah.
in my opinion, you've got such an excellent mastery of where to place the dial on that spectrum.
Yeah. Well, what I've come to apply, I guess, is a model which says about the first 80% of your trading journey should be towards the science
Hmm.
of rules-based trading. And the reason I say that is because that places a heavy emphasis on discipline and math. And that is automatically putting you on the other side of the trade from the herd.
Hmm.
Because people dislike discipline and they dislike math, and they are going to react emotionally to surprises in the market. So the first and the most persistent edge that you can have is to be strong on things that the herd is weak on. So I think the first 80% of your effort should be on developing the science of trading, which means rules based, math oriented, discipline focused, consistency through time. But the last 20%, I believe you need art to carry you further because there are some nonlinear moments, what we call compound critical states, in which the normal rules of behavior, which are good most of the time, they don't work all the time. And in those special moments, if you can add artful judgment to your practice, then the mechanical system will put you in a position where you can really exploit the skill of your artful judgment. And then that's where you get the extra icing on the cake, if I can say it that way. Now, while you're developing artful judgment, you can trade that at small levels of risk while you develop skill. So the mechanical system will carry you and will give you a long-term advantage. But then to get even more out of the market, you want to develop that artful judgment and then blend that with the mechanical piece. So that's the general approach that I teach now is start with the math, start with the discipline, and make that your long-term edge compared to the psychologically unstable or emotional herd that reacts without thinking, and you'll be well. That will take care of you in the long run, in my view.
And the irony is not lost on me that you are, in fact, applying systems thinking to how to develop both the art and the
Yeah,
science of systems thinking in the market. It's really
yeah.
just perfect.
It's the curse. It's actually the curse of systems thinking. You know, I got a master's of science degree in systems thinking, systems management from USC. Let's see, 31 years ago. And that was the very first briefing we got from the program director. He says, Once you start seeing the world through a systems thinker's eyes, you're just going to be miserable for life, because there's always one more question to ask. There's one more component and one more level down and one more level up and one more variable to consider in the mix. And it just sort of never ends. And boy, has that ever been true. But I will also tell you that systems thinking as a way of life, as a way of thinking, has been extraordinarily helpful to me as a Army officer, as a leader, as an organizational change specialist, as a professor, as a coach, as a trader, in every dimension of my life. Systems thinking has given me a persistent edge, and it was hard work, but it really has paid off and continues to pay off. It's a big part of the new book that we wrote too. There's we have that threaded throughout the entire document there. Well, this one gets at the third question you were asking me, which is the so what. As a trader, how do I apply systems and systems thinking
Right.
into a meta system or a larger system? So this is just one way that might manifest, and I like to think of this as my one-page trading strategy, which is my top level blueprint for how I approach the world. I like to think of the difference between strategy and tactics as, well, tactics is what you do when you know what to do. Like if you know what you should do, you should just do it, and that's tactics. But if you don't know what to do, then you need strategy, which is a broad approach that considers the wide view and the long term, and then allows you to uh, slowly narrow your focus and do things. So what I've arrayed here is the top level metaphor, which is a form of systems thinking. I look at trading in the same way that a bowl maker makes bowls, is that I want to concentrate on the bowl that I make. I want to master each style of the bowl. I want to do it every day. I want to slowly improve my quality and my understanding through repetition and learning and craftsmanship, and then expand into other kinds of bowls, larger bowls, smaller bowls, decorative. So when you map that idea of craftsmanship and standard work to trading, this is one way that you might do it. We think of three different time frames. We think of day trading, which is short-term intraday. I think of swing trading as holding positions for 2 to 10 days, short-term price anomalies that give us a momentary imbalance between buyers and sellers that produces big adjustments in price, and then long steady state. So during that moment of readjustment, usually after a news event, there's a chance to swing up or down to a new price level. So swing trading is designed to take advantage of that 2 to 10 day. And then position trading is, I think of as 2 weeks and longer, out to maybe I'm holding it for 1 year or 3 years or 5 years. And in each one of these three different time dimensions, the market behaves in different ways. The kinds of systems that I need to have to exploit the opportunities are different. Now, maybe some of the chart patterns look the same, but the time frame is usually different. The rules are different. Like in day trading, I'm looking at statistically based patterns, pure statistics and math, because it happens so fast. I need the power and speed of math to give me the edge. At the very other end, position trading, what I need is long-term momentum and inertia. So like bodies in motion tend to stay in motion. So leaders are going to continue to lead month after month until they don't. So I need a system that allows me to find those leaders with a wide enough stop that I can just stay with it while it's grinding ahead. In the middle, that swing trade is I'm looking for patterns and strategies that show me where there are critical states and price anomalies that are going to be vigorously adjusted. And then I can take advantage of the scenario-based trading. So each one of those three time frames is its own system. And that's fine. But it turns out that each one of those time frames has information that's useful to the other timeframes. Like if I have a position trading target that is leading the way faster than the market, sometimes there are going to be swing trade patterns in that position trade. And so I can just use that as my research tool to find a good time to trade something that I'm already familiar with. And in fact, that may also lead me to some intraday trades where that thing is moving up faster than the market and the market's moving up, and this thing is moving up as part of a swing trade, and it's a market leader long term. That's the lowest risk intraday trade that you can find because you got all of those other time frames are working in mutual support. So it turns out that if I drop down a level and I do this core and turbo trading, that is a system that allows me to leverage the intersection between these different time frames. And I can use information and ideas from one to be effective in the other. It allows me to hedge, it allows me to double up. And then what I have is a meta system in which I am standing back and looking at all three of those time frames and the hybrid trading and figuring out how to take my overall portfolio and then asset allocate. How much do I put on the position? How much do I allocate for day trading? What's the size of each individual trade? What's the correlation between positions so that I can assess my overall risk as it is expressed through each of these subordinate timeframes? So systems have systems, and we would call that a meta system. And in that meta system, not only am I performing the trading function, but I'm also learning to manage my own psychology, because that's one of the constant features in all of those different systems is me, the trader. So I need a system that allows me to develop new skills, to manage my emotions, to use peer review to give me outside confirmation so that I don't get caught up in my own bias. I need a board of directors to help me run the business as a business, which is a system. So I can start using all of these different kinds of systems together in a larger meta system. And that's why there's such a strong payoff in becoming a systems thinker, is that now when I learn to be a systems thinker, it makes me a better day trader, a better swing trader, a better position trader, a better businessman, better psychology. So that allows us to trade systems where we're maybe only looking at monthly charts and some with weekly charts, some with daily, and even down to 1 minute and 3 minute charts. I can now look at this entire process as a meta system through one unified lens and gain some synergy. So that's my short answer, if I can say it that way, to how does systems thinking really manifest inside the world of a trader? It's really psychology, systems development and management, understanding market cycles, running a business together. It's really an integrated effort at using systems thinking in that way. You were laughing about a systems thinker thinking about teaching systems. Well, our applied system development process, for example, takes each of the components of plan, prepare, execute, and assess, breaks that down into modules, and then teaches about the elements of the modules, and then helps us reassemble how we plan, how we prepare, how we execute, how we assess the overall trade in order to develop a systematic process. In many cases, it's built on this kind of a system map of what makes the market move price. Why does price move around? Well, sometimes the different US sectors are competing and there's winners and losers, and that's influencing price. Sometimes it's the region of the world. Sometimes it's a broad global sector. Sometimes it's a style like, hey, growth is really winning and value is really losing. Sometimes it's asset classes like interest income is winning and real estate is losing, or technology is winning, stocks are losing, whatever it may be. Sometimes it's market cap. Sometimes the small caps are doing great and the large caps are doing poorly, and sometimes it's reversed. Sometimes it's the influence of currency, that there could have been a change in policy in some nation and they're devaluing their currency. And now all of the companies that are denominated in that currency are experiencing dramatic price changes as the market responds to changes. Well, when you have a systems view of the world, you start looking at each one of these components as a partial explanation for what is moving price around and how can I use that to exploit. So I might consider each of these subsets of each of those variables above, and then I might build out a bunch of different documented mechanical systems that can be back tested, forward tested, and robotically traded to get me to my 80% solution. And I could have long-term swing trades and intraday. I could figure out which ones perform well in bullish markets, sideways markets, or bear markets, or volatile markets, or whatever. And then I might have a strategy that says, let me define the market condition and then pick the systems that should work well in that particular season. And then what I've done is I've used systematic thinking to give myself this stackable set of edges that gives me the best chance to win in the market. So as I'm putting together all of those things, I might then take a look at my learning journey as a way of developing craft knowledge in all of these dimensions. How I learn to plan, to prepare, to be ready to trade, to execute the trades, to assess the trades. And then each of these are the individual components of all those. How do I learn to be a better trader? Well, I got to learn to be a better student. And that means that there's ways I can accelerate my learning if I understand the art and science of learning. So this systems thinking really never stops. How can I set up my management team to take advantage of different skill sets in order to run my business and to run my strategies? So this really represents an ecosystem approach to learning the methods and processes of trading in all the different time dimensions that we speak about. And so so I guess in conclusion, what I would say is, for folks that are interested in more on systems thinking for traders, these are the foundational thinkers that have helped me over the last 35 years develop this sort of approach. Sengi and Meadows. I'm an advanced facilitator for the Waters Foundation for Systems Thinking. Barry Richmond and Thomas Athey are foundational guys. This CATWO, a soft systems methodology by Peter Senge, is a way to really appreciate systems in human life. Like when you're working with a machine or a car, it has certain features based on metal. When you're working with people, the soft systems methodology allows you to be a little more balanced and nuanced and gentle and careful when you're learning how to work inside human systems that incorporate psychology. Weinberg's work helps us understand cybernetics and learning processes and learning algorithms. And I think that even though that's 50 years old, that's giving us really important insights about how AI is going to impact the world of trading, because that's a systematic approach to thinking that is going to be a large part of our future. So that's everything I really wanted to say about, the application of systems thinking to trading, and just invite folks to contact us for more. We've got systems thinking workshops. We've incorporated systems thinking into our trading workshops, and are happy to talk about questions or develop solutions for folks that have specific areas of concern. So let me toss it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Ken. It's really inspiring to hear you talk about these concepts and how they apply to trading. And I know from my own experience, having studied with you now for close to 15 years, I think we're going on, just what a difference it's made in my results, and still how much more there is to learn, how much more there is to develop in the craft of trading and in applying systems thinking to it, which is for me fascinating and exciting, because it seems like no matter how good my craft gets, there's always room for improvement. There's always more to learn. So thank you again for sharing your incredible body of knowledge today.
Happy to help. My final thought on this is that uh, I think that systems thinking is like a business plan and insurance. That
Hmm.
when everything is going well and there's no surprises, you could convince yourself you don't really need that because things are going. When you need them is when there's uncertainty or a surprise, and then your reaction to new events, surprise events, is as good as your existing business plan, as good as your insurance, and as good as your onboard systems thinking to be able to respond quickly in a useful way. So the business plans, insurance, and systems thinking are things that you need to develop before you need them. And that would be my best advice is prepare like your life depends on it when it comes to those three areas. Have a good business plan, have a good life plan, have good insurance to take care of the family, and then be a systems thinker, and you'll always be looking to improve your position. It just goes, it's just part of the territory. It goes without saying. So take good care. Love to the family. Take good care of yourself, and we'll see you on down the road.
Thanks, Kent. Cheers.